guys, what is going on? Blossom is back, and welcome back to another episode of Underrated, Rightly Rated, or Overrated, or also Severely Overrated. It is the series where I talk about, in my opinion, and share my personal opinions on whether or not a car within an RQ range is worthy of that RQ or not. Now, I did a little pause in this series. I think it's been a couple of weeks since I actually posted this series, and that's because in the most recent update, well, the last two updates, the first one was, well, obviously we went over RQ100 and went to our 114 where everything was just all over the place, and things like the McLaren 720 GT3 were going over 100 RQ when it performed like an RQ92. Just didn't make any sense. And in the most recent update, the little patch that happened kind of changed things a bit. It kind of brought the Furai back down. It brought the 720S back down. I really don't know who in the right mind decided to put those cars over 100 RQ. Why? I understand that sometimes it's good to test things, but why? What was there? Did you really need it to test if the 720S was going to be competitive at over 100 RQ? The things that the decisions that this company makes is just getting more and more wacky. I don't get it. But anyway, I want to start off with the last episode, okay? Because I still want to say that RQs in the game still doesn't make any sense. I mean, some of them are done really well, but like I have OCD, and like the way that Hutch changes RQs is that they kind of change them in waves. So like I think in the most recent update with Pacific Highway, they kind of reiterated all the RQ levels for pickup trucks because they all got handling changes. And then I think like rear wheel drive epics got another change. I think that rear wheel drive epics are actually in a really good place right now, but legendaries is just all over the freaking place right now. Like this McLaren GT at 89, like why? Anyway, so this was last episode, right? This was the ranking that I did for last episode, and as you can see, only one car, I believe, that I put in underrated actually went up, which was the TVR Sabera. And then I think the Lancer stayed the same, the Quattro stayed the same, the Macan stayed the same, so all these cars stayed the same. And then the other thing that really surprised me was cars like the Gumpert and the F1 GT both went down. But the Arash, which I thought was rightly rated, went up to 88. And the McLaren GT went up to 89, and it had the same stats. Dude, it doesn't make any sense. Like, at this point, you might think, oh, maybe that my judgment is wrong, but it really isn't. So let me show you the times from the F1, the Arash, and the LM, right? So bear in mind, all these cars, the Arash used to be 87, the F1 was, I believe, 86 or something, and the Alpha was 86. As you can see, the 3 RQ apart, and you're telling me that the Arash, the best car here, okay, well, it's the best car for the karting, twisty circuit, twisty road, fast circuit, rolling, right? But the moment we get into the drags, the F1 GT is the best car on the block. And the reality is, when I was judging all these cars in that episode, I was judging them from a drag perspective. Not the TZ3 Corsa, but cars like the F1 GT, the Arash, the Gumpert, all of those cars I was judging from a drag standpoint, because these are cars with, you know, known for incredible MRA, 99 or 113 in the Arash's part. So you would think, oh, I'm going to put it in as a fast car, because if I wanted a twisty car, then I would use the TZ3 over the Arash. And as you can see over here, the TZ3 is better on the actual twisty stuff, like the car park, the G-force, the indoor karting, they tie on the slalom. So as you can see, they are actually very competitive. Like, these two twisty cars are very, very competitive. They're trading blow for blow. Why is 188 and why is 185? Why? I don't get it. Like, if anything, they should both be 87, or one should be, okay, I can agree that the Arash is slightly better than the Corsa, and that's why in last episode I put both of them in rightly rated when one was 86 and one was 87. That is the definition of slightly better, because what you see here is the definition of slightly better. The TZ3 is just, you know, I mean, a little worse than the Arash, maybe? I mean, it's really subjective depending on how important car park, G-force, and indoor karting is to you, so it doesn't make any sense. And I know that the Arash is a lot better than the TZ3 on the drags, but if I want to compare the Arash of a drag car, then I'll put the McLaren F1 GT, and as you can see, the McLaren F1 GT pulls it out of the water, so it doesn't... It doesn't make any sense, man. It doesn't make any sense, and it pisses me the hell off. But anyway, let's get into this episode. So, I think the only thing that was genuinely right, and it was still kind of wrong. Well, the only thing that was right was that the TBR Sibera went up. That was pretty obvious. And the Ford GT90, that went up too. But I think it went up too much. 89, 86? I mean, 85, okay, 86, maybe a low 86, but what doesn't make any sense is that the GT90 went up, but the Jaguar TWR didn't, when that car is very, very close in performance. Yes, the Ford is better, but now the difference between that Jaguar TWR and the Ford GT90 is 4 RQ, and the GT90 is only beating the TWR by like tiny, like milliseconds, like... It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, like I said, it's my personal opinion, but I am convinced. I am absolutely convinced that my personal opinion is better than anything that Hutch can come up with. I will tell you that for a fact. But anyway, let's get into this. Okay, so I'm gonna start off in modes. So we're gonna start off with 4-wheel drive. Okay, so every 4-wheel drive within RQ89 and 88. And as you can see here, it's relatively competitive. I mean, the Nissan GTR, for example, I mean, it is the best car here in the car park here in karting. The way I'm gonna judge 4-wheel drives is actually very, very simple. I think in general, 4-wheel drives are very overrated. So the best performing 4-wheel drives, that in my opinion isn't underrated, it just means it's rightly rated, and then the weaker performing ones definitely go down. Now, one thing there is to consider is that the Porsche Taycan Turbo is actually really competitive with the Roof R Turbo. There's 3 RQs separating these cars, and the 86 RQ is the better car in Canyon Tour, quarter mile, half mile, 0 to 100, 0 to 120, hill climb, L-shaped drag, fast circuit. Again, I think that the Porsche Taycan Turbo, I put that in rightly rated last episode, and that's because it is a little bit of a specialist car, a little bit of like a Lotus 340R, where it excels very, very strongly in some areas, and then as you can see, it's the worst car here for the car park, the G-force, the indoor karting. So I think, yeah, a very high 86 and not a low 87 for the Taycan, but it really just goes to show that this Roof R Turbo, not only is it competitive with an RQ86, where it really shouldn't be, it's also lacking in the car park and G-force and hairpin, and this is supposed to be 89 and it's losing to 87. So this Roof R Turbo really is the definition of overrated. And so I'm just going to show you everything here right now. You can pause the video whenever you like, but really the best performing cars in my opinion are going to be the Taycan, which isn't even in this episode for crying out loud. The GTR, the Mercedes as well is also okay. The BMWs kind of carry their own weight as like second and third place finishers, like participants, and then obviously the EB110 is also very strong on the G-force, indoor karting, and slalom, and that is because it's very light. I would say that the best 2 cars would probably be the GTR and the EB. I would even say that the EB is actually a little underrated. But anyway, other cars, I mean, this is no surprise. The Lamborghinis and the Audis are all hot garbage. But then, the only 4-wheel drive, which I genuinely think is completely underrated, is this Quasar. The moment I put it in, wait till you see it. Yeah. Why? Why? Who in the right mind was like, I don't understand. This car is obviously better everywhere from car park to Canyon Tour. Why is this 89? Like, shouldn't this be enough reason to put it up to 90? It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, let's get into it, right? So the Mercedes, it is rightly rated in my opinion. It didn't really win much in the comparison, but also at the same time, outside of times, I also think of the amount of niches each car can provide. Obviously, the AMG GT is a saloon. I believe it's a 5-seater, so it has a lot of things that a lot of these other 4-wheel drive cars don't have, because all these Koenigseggs, all these Lambos, they're all 2-seater coupes, blah, blah, blah. So let's talk about the overrated cars. Obviously, the Audi is overrated. The Lambo is overrated. We'll talk about the Koenigsegg later. The Murcielago is severely overrated, one of the worst cars in this comparison. And then what else were we talking about? GTR, I think, is rightly rated, and I think that the Bugatti is actually underrated. I think it's an 89. It would be, I think it would be the echelon with the GTR. Like, those 2 cars are your pinnacle of 89 4-wheel drives. Like, I think that's all gonna be all right. This comparison did open my eyes a little bit, because I thought the GTR was actually quite weak, but it actually isn't too bad. So yeah, I think that's rightly rated at 89. So Korn will be happy to know that. The BMWs, I mean, this one, I think that they're all actually overrated. It's hard because I freaking love those cars. I might no. The thing is, the M3 competition has extra niches. Much like the Mercedes, it is, you know, not four-wheel drive, but it is four-wheel drive, but it's also saloon, 5-seaters, blah, blah, blah. But the Mercedes I know is better than the BMW, and that's why this is Blossom Choice and the BMW isn't. So I'm gonna say that, you know, bring all of them down, and I think that these BMWs would actually be pretty good 88s. So yeah, I think they're all overrated. Quasar is underrated by a long shot. I mean, you all saw that already, so I don't need to really explain it. The Rivar Turbo is also severely overrated. I don't know why it's an 89. It does not belong there at all. And the BMW M5 competition, in my opinion, is it's a tough one. I'm gonna put it in rightly rated. I think, you know, at the end of the day, it has the same exact stats as this competition convertible, but the convertible is 89, but the M5 competition is actually just a lot more valuable because it's a lot more versatile because it's a saloon and a 5-seater, and really the reality is there is no equality in top drives. Some tags are more loved than other tags. I've never seen a frickin' convertible daily. I've never seen a convertible event in clubs, but I've always seen, you know, 5-seater and saloon. Because the thing is, when you are a 5-seater and you are a saloon, that's 2 tags in one, basically. Like a convertible, you're usually talking 2-seaters, but 2-seaters barely show up. And if you want to use 2-seaters, then you're probably using a rear-wheel drive coupe, unless it's telling you only 2-seater convertibles. This might be a 4-seater. I'm gonna be honest, I actually don't know. The thing is, that car barely gets used. So yeah, those are all the 4-wheel drive stuff. The Taycan was not in the question because that's medium, and I was rating all the low cars. I think the Taycan is in a good place. Once again, it's like the Lotus 340R, very niche, as in like it's really good in some areas and it's trash in other areas. So as a city street monster, it is definitely like an RQ92. But then again, I understand why this is 88 because in the twisty scenarios, it is quite terrible. So yeah, I'll give it that. And then the Onyx. Oh yeah, we'll talk about the Onyx. Well, now really. So let's talk about the rear-wheel drive selection. Okay. So first of all, as you can see, I think rear-wheel drive 89s are pretty healthy. Like this what you see here between the Porsche GT3 all the way down to the McLaren F1 LM, this is what I like to see. Like, if all these cars are gonna be the same RQ, then I want them all to be competitive with each other. I don't want one car to really stand out in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, this is really cool. You know, the Porsche is best in the car park, best in the fast circuit. The Pagani is better on the twisty circuit. You know, they all kind of interchange with each other, and that really makes sense for what, you know, being the same RQ. And then really, like, you start to drop off here with the Koenigsegg Agera. I think the CCXR is still worthy of that 89, but like a weaker 89. It doesn't win anything, but it remains competitive. But you talk about the Agera, and you start seeing red, you know, like it's like the really bad on the slalom, it's really bad on the super twisty conditions, and then it gets even worse because the Rezvani Beast is just terrible. It's ridiculously terrible, and people are thinking, oh, the Rezvani Beast is a dragster. Yeah, but is it a dragster? Because, I mean, it's getting shafted by the Onyx, and the Onyx is 1 RQ cheaper. You know what I mean? So yeah, the Rezvani definitely just isn't it, okay? And then now we'll get rid of this, and then now we'll talk about just the 88s. So we're taking with the 89s, and as you can see, it's a bit more healthy. The Onyx is still like way too good to be an 88 in my opinion. But this is really just a comparison for the McLarens. The Arash, okay, fine. I was roasting the Arash earlier because it's a bad dragster, but it does have competitive G-force and slalom times among 88, so that's all right. But then again, if I were to put in the TZ3, actually, I did not put the TZ3. I want to see how competitive the TZ3 is here. Oh, what do you know? It's better than the Arash. So what made the Arash stand out as an 88 among its competition? The TZ3 could have done it too. It was better on the G-force. It's better on the car park compared to the Arash, and they tie on the slalom. Wow. So why did the Arash go up but the TZ3 go down, buddy? Don't make no sense to me, man. It don't make no sense to me at all. So yeah, if anything, the Alpha should have gone up too, but it went down. So it doesn't make any freaking sense. But anyway, we'll just keep the Alpha here. Justice for my TZ3 Corsa. I don't even own one, but you know, if you own one. And then obviously like the McLaren, I love how it's still classified as 85 in Top Drives records, but it is 89 in the game. And as you can see, it's just horrible. It's just ridiculously horrible. So yeah, anyway, those are the rear wheel drive times. So let's put everything in. I think the Triveda, like I said, is just rightly overrated. Rightly rated. I think a lot of these rear wheel drives are, to be fair, rightly rated. I don't think there's a lot of issues. This one is overrated though. The McLaren GT is severely overrated. The Club Sport is overrated. The Amira is overrated. The Rizvani is severely overrated. The Arash, I think, is actually overrated, honestly. I know it's able to beat it on the slalom, but like I said, if I really wanted a car that was gonna beat it on the slalom, I would have just gone for the TZ3 Corsa. I don't get it. And I'm not even saying that the TZ3 Corsa is the best possible option. There are probably better options on top of that too. I digress. Gumber Polo is rightly rated. Yeah, that's cool. CCXR is I actually, this car totally flew over my head. And I closed the comparison already. Now the CCGT is underrated. I forgot to show you the times for that, but I had in one of my comparisons. That's why I closed all those tabs already. But the CCGT is by far the best 89 out of all the rear-wheel drive 89 cars, including slick and performance tires. That definitely needs to go back up to 90. It was 90. I don't know why it went down to 89. It's a very 90 car at 3.195 for stats. I don't know why it went down. The McLarens are, rightly rated. I mean, the McLarens were always, in my opinion, just like the definition of their RQ, whatever it was. The GT3 RSR, I think, is rightly rated as well. I think in a recent episode I said, not recent, but like in an episode a while ago, I said that it was overrated. Underrated, because it has ridiculous MRA. But as you can see, as a dragster, it's okay. It's okay. That 0 to 60 really is weighing it down. Veneer is surprisingly rightly rated. It's just very light. Akula, we don't really know. So I mean, looking at its stats, as an 88 though, 3293. Actually, looks a bit overrated, but then again, we don't really know the MRI on that, so honestly, I'll just put it in unknown. So I'll just put a add row below, and then boom, and then we just put NA, sure, okay, and then we'll change the color to gray because that's the color of unknown. Now, the only cars that we didn't talk about in the times are the SUVs to start. Well, I think that the Macan GTS is rightly rated. I think that the other Macan performance pack should just go up and be with the Macan GTS, both at 88, so I think that's okay that way. The F-Pace is very strange because I'll just put it rightly rated. It can name its own RQ. It's the best dragster British SUV. There's nothing that beats it. At one point it was 86, at one point it was 87, now that it's 88. The thing about the F-Pace is it's just a dragster. It's capable of beating the Bentegas, although it has a weaker 0 to 60. But the MRA is strong and the top speed is high. I know that the handling on the F-Pace is weak, but honestly the F-Pace genuinely is just a 996 car. It's just a dragster, honestly. Moving on is the Jucar. Jucar, Panamera, and the 750. I think that the Panamera should be an 87, and the Jucar should also be maybe 87. It was an 86 at one point. The thing is, you cannot have the Jucar, you cannot have the Panamera on the same level with the Taycan Turbo S. The Taycan Turbo S is the god. It is literally the benchmark. So, and these cars don't get close on that city street value, so I'm gonna bring both of them down. I think that they should be more competitive with my baby, the Evo 8, which I honestly think is underrated. So I think they should just switch. And then obviously the last but not least is the BMW 750X Drive. I mean, it's kind of like the F-Pace, where the 750 kind of just, it can write its own RQ. It can't be anything, really. Like, it could be an RQ100, it'll be crap because it'll be too expensive to use, but it's the best in class. So there's not much to say about it. If 89 is the benchmark for a four-wheel drive Sanitara saloon, then so be it. 89 is the benchmark. Just don't introduce a new car that is, worse than this and put it at a higher RQ because, it is a higher top speed or some bullshit like that. So yeah, the thing about the F-Pace, the thing about the 750 is that they are the benchmark for what they are because they are the best at what they do. And it really, for them to not suffer is just to not give them a highly inflated RQ, like kind of how like a Lotus Avia was RQ100 back when RQ100 was the highest RQ. Like, that was just too much. That was too much. And right now, even the Bentley EXP, as much as I love that car being 100, it's too much. It's way too much. It's a fantastic car, but 100 is way too much. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for today. Let me know down in the comments below if you agree or disagree. But like I said, it's always my personal opinion. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. Remember to stay safe, wash your hands. Blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my Bonneville Pontiac. Hold tight all night, cruise to Jacksonville.
Atlantic.
Blonde